Welcome to the Janome studio. My name is Ann Hine, and today we're going to talk about the buttonholes that are found within the Artistic Digitizer program. I took just the plain buttonhole, and there's a couple different styles in there, and I added this little flower around my buttonholes. And I used a shape, the tool in there, and I also used the array tool to make our decorative buttonhole. Then I added it onto a placket of a jacket I'm upcycling, and I added a little decorative cuff to it. So let's get started. So with your software open, we're going to create our decorative buttonhole. Now, I like to use the grid for this. I don't always use the grid, but I have my grid set today at 1-inch intervals. So the first thing we're going to do is create the flower part using the Shape Ellipse tool, and I click and drag about a 1-inch and maybe about 2 box wide petal. And I'm going to scroll in a little bit so we can see that better. There we go. I don't need the outline on this one, so I will go ahead and delete that down here in my used colors. And I'm going to change this to a satin fill, because I like the look of that. And the next thing I'm going to do is make sure I select it so that I turn off my Shapes tool. Now I need to create those other petals. And very easily I can do that using the circular array. So I go to Array, Circular Array. I like to set up 2 of the petals first, so I'm going to put 2 in the step count and enter. And then I can align my first 2 petals right here. I just find this a little bit easier to do, and I just get them almost touching, just like that. Then I can change my step count to 5 and enter, and I have my 5 petals. Now that I like where they are, I can go ahead and touch apply, and there they are. The last thing I like to do here is a little bit of organizing these petals. I like this one to be in the front of the design, so I'm going to select it, right click, order to front of design, and that brings it nicely to the front. I may want this one to come forward just 1, so I'm going to select it, right click, order to front 1, there we go, and now it's just on top of that one, so you can see how those are layered. Next up, I need to make that little petal that fits between them. Just like I made the other one, I'm going to use my Shapes Ellipse tool, and I'm just going to draw a skinny one. It's 1 inch, it's about a box, one of these box wides, just about like that. It is satin fill, because that's what we used last. I can delete my outline right here, and then I want to change the color. Now, if you lost your color box or your properties box, remember you can right click at the top and click on there. When you hover over the open ones, those are lines, you'll see the pencil, and when you hover over the filled ones, those are a fill or a bucket. So we're going to turn that yellow. And I'm going to collect my selection tool to turn off my Shapes tool down here. I just need to bring this over here, and I can click on the end here to bring out the rotation. So that's both, there's a rotation there and there's a skew. So when you hover over it and you get the little kind of funky arrow kind of thing, that would skew the design. This just rotates it. So rotate it into position where you like it. And I like it covering the overlapping here just a little bit. Now I can go back to my array tool to get the other 4. I can change this to 4. And then just bring this one in place, and it aligns all the others, and I can bring those in. So now those are all set. Once I have them where I want them, I select apply, and then while they're still selected, I like to move them to the back, so I'm going to use that same feature, right click, order to back of design, and that brought them all to the back of the design very easily. The next part is making that buttonhole that fits over on top of it. Now buttonholes are made by using a line, so you have to make a little line, and I just need a line that's about this long to start my buttonhole. I'll be changing that a little bit later, but I start it with this size. So left click, right click, end shape, and then I click my selection tool so I have that selected. As long as the Digitize tool is highlighted, it's still active, so make sure you go to Selection. I'm going to go to Properties, and you'll notice in Properties, this is a line, so you've got outline, and there's buttonholes. I'm going to select buttonholes, and it is a little bit crooked, so in my rotation I can put -1 to straighten that up. And then over here, I could rotate it here too. Spacing is fine. The slit length, I tested the buttonhole I'm working with, so mine had to be 1 inch, so I'm going to put 1.0 in there. And the start of my buttonhole, I want start 2, which is a rounded, and end 2 for the other end of it. So I have my buttonhole ready. I do want to change the color of this so we'll be able to see this when we're working. And remember, it's a line color. Now I need to move it over here. And all you need to do is grab the line. Let me scroll in a little bit. There we go. You want to grab your line, and you have to get those little 4 arrows to show up. Not sure why they're not showing. There we go. There they are. Bring this over and just lay it right on top there, and the buttonhole will follow. Let me scroll down so you can see a little bit better. All right. So now I have it. I have to come in and delete some things because this buttonhole is sitting on top of the other part of the button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select just those 2 buttonholes, and the buttonhole and those 2 petals is what I want to say. And in my properties, I'm going to separate to objects. Then I can use my shaping tool and trim. So now we'll be able to go in and take those out. To see that is I can go up here to my auto for my sequence and change it to manual, and I'm going to put this on colors so you can see. Here you can see where I'll have to trim that. That'll have to be taken away. So what I need to do is come in here to objects, and I can scroll down to the objects. Now I have it all selected, so I'm going to click off of it. I'm just going to click on one of these, come in here and do break apart, and now when I click off, I'll find that little part and hit delete. Same with this one. I can do break apart, click off of it, click here and delete it. I can delete the little center part too of the buttonhole, so I'm going to take that out. But I do notice I have some pieces sticking out here, and I'll have some overlaps in here I want to take care of. So what I'll need to do is just select the whole thing, come up to my trim, shaping and trim, and click off my piece, and you can see already I have pieces right there that are showing trims. The yellow right here has a little extra piece. I can see it right there. So if I select it and break apart, there'll be 2 parts to that now, that little piece, and I can delete it. Those all look good. This one has a little extra piece. I can see that. I'm going to right click on it, break apart, click off of it. Then I can find that little part and delete it. Same thing here. Right click, break apart, come in here, delete that little section, come in here, break apart, delete that little section, this last one, I think this is my last one, break apart, come down here, select that, and delete. And so I should have all those little parts should be gone now. There we go. Now I can edit some of these stitches. As I was working with it, some of them changed, and I want to add a little bit to them. So I'm going to use the Stitch Flow tool. I'm going to select here and go to Stitch Flow, and then I'm going to click here and here to make my stitches go across there a little bit better. Let's see. There we go. So you can play around with this to get your stitches to lay just where you want them. And down here I can do that too. I'm using direction, so it's making them go in a certain direction. For the yellow part, I actually want to use divide, because I'm going to put a little bit of a crease in those stitches. So I'm just going to do that, come over here, do that, do this one. So this is direction, all under stitch flow. There we go. And we got something going on here. Let me see. There we go. Just had to move my stitches a little bit. If they're, the software will take some stitches away, so sometimes you have to work with the direction of your stitches. So I have that all done. When I'm ready, I can take this up here to save, and I can save it. I do want to save as a draw file, and then after I save it as a draw file, I can save it again in the format that I want to use it in. If I want to export, I would come up here to the Export tab on the top toolbar and click there, and I can put it to Wi-Fi if I have a Wi-Fi machine, USB storage, or cable connection, depending on what you have for your machine. So there you go. There's your easy decorative buttonhole. Remember, do a little bit of a test before you start, and enjoy.